The lights above the private jet terminal flickered once, then stabilized. No one spoke inside the black SUV as it idled in the shadow of the hangar. A phone buzzed softly on the leather seat. 3 unread messages, all the same. "Oh, leave now. It's coming." The woman in the passenger seat pressed her fingers against her lips. Her nails tapped quietly against her tablet screen. The list wasn't long. Just 5 names. But it was devastating. And if it got out, it would burn more than reputations. It would collapse legacies. Inside the hangar, the first jet roared to life. The staircase was already up. No lights, no announcements. It had taken off from the registry within hours of being booked. She recognized the tail number from older photos. It hadn't been used in 3 years. That was intentional. Across town, in a luxury penthouse overlooking the Hudson, another man paced. The windows were blacked out. His assistant had quit that morning without a word. His wife hadn't come home the night before. The silence was unbearable. Then came the knock. He didn't open it. Instead, he went to the far wall, where a panel slid open to reveal a hidden compartment. A passport, 2 watches, and a sat phone that hadn't rung in almost a decade. It did now. He picked up. "Don't speak. You know why I'm calling." He didn't argue. He didn't ask where. He already knew. Across the country, an estate once used for silent film premieres had gone dark. The staff dismissed. The gates locked. But behind the library walls, an emergency bag was being packed with quiet, terrifying precision. Nothing too digital. Nothing that could ping. And always, so an envelope marked, "If found, burn." A single television screen glowed inside the room. The testimony had just aired. The camera never cut away from the courtroom. The silence in the gallery was absolute, but online, the list had leaked. The ones who had left already were grayed out. The ones still here pulsed red. One of them watched the screen, breathing shallow, her fingers twitching like they used to before going on stage. She reached for her phone, paused, then dropped it. Instead, she picked up a notebook, Garposter handwritten, never scanned, and flipped to the back page. She read it once, then tore it out. She placed it beside a candle and lit the edge. The page curled inward, ink distorting as flames ate the truth. Back in New York, a doorman stood in front of a shuttered building, arms crossed. It was his 3rd call that day, asking if the top-floor resident was expected back. He didn't know how to respond. No one had seen the man since the night the testimony aired. His suite had been cleaned out. Not by movers, by silence. Somewhere in the Mediterranean, a yacht drifted. No flag, no listed crew. The signal had gone dead an hour after the court broadcast ended, but on board, the security system was still active. Motion detected every 12 minutes. Someone was pacing. The woman who held the original list stood in a concrete garage now, beneath a rusted city outpost that had once been used for surveillance. She placed the list in a metal box. Not a digital one. An old one. One that clicked when it locked. She looked out through the cracked window. The skyline was still there, glittering, unaware, but beneath its surface, an exodus had begun. Quiet. Precise. Some said coordinated, some said desperate. Her phone buzzed again. One message. "You weren't supposed to speak." She didn't reply. She turned off the phone and walked out. The hallway light above her flickered. Once, then stabilized. The hallway stretched longer than she remembered. Each footstep echoed like a question. Why now? Why her? But she had already broken the rule. She'd named no names, but the list had never needed names. It was coded, layered in initials, dates, discrete associations. Those who read it understood, and those on it had already moved. Some were on planes rerouted midair. Some had gone underground, literally into properties without official blueprints, designed for disappearances. Some were hidden in plain sight, faces swollen with cosmetic distraction, walking through airports with the confidence of those the world would never suspect. The storm wasn't just legal, it was atmospheric. She passed a young man sitting on the stairs near the boiler room, his face barely visible in the low amber light. He looked up at her like he knew. Not who she was, but what she carried. The pressure of knowing things others were trying to bury 6 feet below marble floors and NDAs. She nodded once. He didn't nod back, just slid over and let her pass. In a tech hub across the ocean, a server farm was flashing red. A VPN routed through 3 embassies was trying to scrub certain search queries. Too late. The keywords had already trended. The timestamps matched perfectly with the testimony's most damning moment. I didn't understand what I was part of until it was too late. The woman's voice, shaking but clear, echoed across timelines and timelines. The clip had been reposted, dissected, muted, slowed, deep-faked, translated. But the truth didn't need clarity, it needed context, and that was something only the list could give. At a luxury retreat posing as a wellness center in the Andes, a woman known for being seen everywhere was suddenly nowhere. Her social media manager had been reassigned. Her stylist was told to cut ties quietly. And the last message from her team had simply read, "No appearances until Q4. But one blurry shot had emerged, her face behind tinted car glass, hands curled around a small, leather-bound notebook. Her expression unreadable, but her destination, unmistakable. There was a pattern to all this. Those who had reason to fear, but didn't wait to be named. The woman from the garage made her way to a train station with no listed departures that night, but there were figures on the platform. Men in gloves, eyes hidden under beanies. One wore a badge from a long-dissolved security agency. They didn't ask her name. They only asked one question. "Is it in your possession?" She reached into her coat. Not the original list. That was locked, burned, and fragmented. But what she held now was something worse. The supplemental list. The one that included facilitators. Enablers. Those who never touched a soul but held the cameras, booked the venues, silenced the staff. It was thicker than the first. She handed it over. They looked at it in silence. Then one of them whistled, low and slow. "Didn't think some of these would be here." Her eyes stayed on the tracks. "Neither did I," she said. Suddenly, all the lights in the station flickered out. Backup power didn't kick in. It wasn't an outage. It was a blackout. Someone didn't want the second list to leave. Someone was watching. Someone was already on their way. The darkness inside the station was total. The kind that makes your ears ring. The kind that doesn't feel accidental. She didn't move. Neither did the men. There was no panic. Only calculation. Footsteps echoed from the far tunnel. Slow, deliberate, heel first. Someone else was in the station now, and they weren't late. They were timed. The man holding the supplemental list tucked it into his coat with a crisp, quiet motion. The others shifted subtly, a practice maneuver. They weren't civilians. They didn't need orders to know what to do next. A distant metallic clang vibrated through the rails. Another train? Number not tonight. She turned toward the emergency stairwell and moved quickly, no hesitation. Her phone was off, her GPS disabled, but it didn't matter. Whoever was in the tunnel wasn't using tech to find her. They were using knowledge. They knew the list had moved, and they were close. Up top, the city was oblivious. Neon signs blinked over bars and clubs where bodies danced to beats imported from safer continents. But inside a suite high above, a PR team was having a very different party. The testimony had triggered a chain reaction. Executives were on burner phones. Flights were being chartered under aliases not used since 2012. Some were calling in favors with people they hadn't spoken to since they'd crossed certain lines. Lines that were never supposed to be redrawn. A top-floor balcony door swung open. A man stepped outside, glass in hand, watching the clouds roll in. He'd once bragged in interviews about the secrets he'd take to the grave. Now he wasn't sure how close that grave really was. Far from the city, in a coastal town known for its enforced silence, a man was watching footage in reverse. Security cam clips that had already been wiped from official channels, reassembled through back doors. One by one, he scrubbed through faces. One by one, he made notes. Until he found one that made him pause. She had been standing at the back of the courtroom. Behind a column, not on the guest list, he zoomed. There she was, the same woman who now walked through an unmarked door behind the train station. No signs. Just a faint smell of iron and dust. She emerged into a parking garage that wasn't supposed to exist. Half built, then buried. But tonight, it was alive. A car idled in the back. Matte paint, no plates, foreign model. The driver didn't look at her, just tapped the steering wheel twice. She got in. No words. As they pulled into the tunnel, she opened a small device clipped inside her coat. Analog. Dials. No screens. She twisted 2 frequencies. Waited. Then came the voice. "Are you secure?" She hesitated. The city behind her was bleeding light into the sky. "No," she said, "but I'm moving." "Status of the document?" "Transferred." There was a pause. And the third list? Her throat went dry. The one no one was supposed to know about. The third isn't a list, she said. It's a recording. Another pause. Then, location? Undisclosed, but if it leaks... She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Across the ocean, a villa nestled in a fog-draped valley flickered with blue lights as motion sensors tracked figures approaching from 3 directions. Inside, an aging artist scrubbed footage from a hard drive while a woman younger than him placed black tape over the windows. "Do you think she did it?" he asked. The woman stopped. She didn't have to. The world did it for her. In the rear seat of the car, the woman who had held the list reached into her jacket and pulled out a single photo. A still frame. 3 people. 1 courtroom. No timestamp. No metadata. Just a scribbled note on the back. This is the moment they knew. The photo trembled in her hands, because someone else had taken it, and she had no idea who. The rain came without warning, hammering the windshield and sheets. The wipers moved in slow arcs, struggling to keep up. The driver remained silent, hands steady. They passed under a bridge where 3 figures stood motionless, cloaked in shadows and plastic raincoats, their silhouettes unmistakable. Watchers, not wanderers. She leaned her head against the window. Her pulse was steady now. The adrenaline had cooled into something heavier. Regret wasn't the right word. It was too soft. What she felt was something colder, like standing in a room where you'd once been loved, and realizing you'd never be welcome again. The third list wasn't written. It wasn't coded. It was spoken captured in a mic someone thought had been cut. The voices weren't raised. They were calm, polite, smiling even. That was the worst part. The laughter, the way trauma was arranged like a dinner menu with wine pairings and polite nods. The kind of evil that didn't need volume. The recording had surfaced in the strangest way. Not leaked, not stolen. It had been sent. Delivered in a box of wine bottles, tucked inside a court compartment. No return address, no fingerprints. Just a red sticker on the bottom that read, "Not for broadcast." And yet, it had been heard. Not by millions, but by the right ears. One of those ears had belonged to her, and once she heard it, she understood why so many had fled, not because of guilt, but because of proximity. Some of them hadn't committed the crimes, but they had smiled when they happened. The car turned sharply into a canyon road, no lights, no signs. Just asphalt and fog. Ahead, a cabin flickered with lantern light. Safe house or trap? She didn't ask. She stepped out. The air was thick, the mist swallowing sound. She walked toward the porch. The door was already ajar. Inside sat an old woman with no expression, stirring tea with a silver spoon. On the table, a cassette player. Analog, no Wi-Fi, no connection, just a plastic button. The woman nodded. She pressed play. The voices began again, polite, eager, familiar. No screaming, just organization, details, logistics. The horror was in the control, the joy in their cadence, the economy of cruelty. She sat down, listened again, and wept. Not because she was in danger, but because she knew, after this played, there would be no more running. And those who had fled? They hadn't escaped. They'd only delayed the reckoning, because now, someone else had the tape, and they weren't afraid of playing it.